Hi, I'm Janie Bishop, a residential real estate broker here in the Los Angeles area, and this video is covering the real estate housing market statistics for closings in June of 2024. Now keep in mind that means most of them went under contract in May with a 30-day escrow to close in June. So here are the numbers. Oh, and to give you some perspective, during May, the interest rates were the average about 7.2%. Through the month, it fell to about 7. As you know, in July, it has dropped under 7, which is good. But that's where it was at the time we are talking about. So here are the numbers. In Los Angeles County, the median price for June was $889,180, so just under $890. The median price month to month went up about 9.5%, and year to year the median price was up almost 7%. Unfortunately, the sales volume fell month to month. It dropped 13.8%, and year to year 15.5%. And in my opinion, much of that is due to the question over interest rates and the fact that industry pundits and even the Fed have seemed to indicate that at some point the Fed is going to take interest rates down. And so people keep waiting, buyers and sellers keep waiting for that to happen. And each time it doesn't, a number of people remain on pause. So that's where we are. In Ventura County, the median price was $964,500, which was a 4.3 increase month to month and a 4% interest year to year. In Ventura County, the volume also fell a bit, 10% month to month and 5.7% year to year. I thought it might be interesting to do a little bit of a historical perspective also. And so I tracked the median price in the same month, June, pre-COVID, which would have put us in 2019. And in LA County, the median price was $599,680, just under 600%. We hit a high in September 2023, just under a year ago, at $914,640. So between 2019 and 2023, it was a 52% increase. We have given back a little bit of that, but still, it's up significantly. In Ventura County, in June 2019, the median price was $647, and they also hit their high in September 2023, which was $962,500, and that was a 49% increase. Again, have given back some, but still that's a major increase. So the question is, what do I see coming up? And you know, at the moment the economy seems steady, but there are so many factors that could cause problem, and just don't know if any one of them is going to be the quote tipping point. To me, what has become the highest risk at the moment is commercial real estate, and whether or not that impacts local and or regional banks, which of course impacts consumer confidence. And then you also have the general economy, California's economy, and China. So then in addition to that, we now have this major topic of the lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and Real Estate Commissions, which the changes are to go into effect mid-August. And while they were working out the details, it has even changed in the last few weeks. And I guess the two key points between the lawsuit and the Department of Justice is that they talked about wanting transparency for buyers. And so before a realtor can show a buyer a property, we must have a signed agreement with them. It can be exclusive, non-exclusive. It can include some negotiation of fees or not. And so that'll be interesting. In the meantime, in the last week, Colorado has said it doesn't think that people in their state should be doing that because they think the buyer isn't in a position to know what they should negotiate with their realtor. So it'll be interesting to see how that function shakes out. Then the second part is that the MLS is no longer allowed to list a commission that the seller has agreed to give the listing agent to offer to buyer's agents to show the property. So, and in the meantime, in the last week or so, they have even taken out from the listing agreement the discussion or the clause, we will, for the listing agent to review this with the seller, which I think is a huge mistake. And when I work with sellers, it's my fiduciary duty to discuss it. And especially because the lawsuit and the DOJ are, while they have said the way we are doing it is wrong, they did not say there is a better way to do it, a better and clearer way to do it. But the thought is that the buyer is going to negotiate with their own agent a rate, and for buyers who do not have that amount of extra cash in addition to their down payment and such, can negotiate in their offer to the seller to, here's what I'm offering for your house, plus please pay my buyer's agent what I've agreed to, and that will all become negotiable. And the one saving grace for that is, for those buyers, when that works out, it will be incorporated into their loan, so they don't have to come up with the money in cash, which, take for example, if a new home buyer in our area wants to buy a single family house, we'll just use the most modest house, probably $800,000. And let's say you're putting 5% down, not even 20% down, 5% down. You would have to have a down payment of $40,000. You have to have closing costs, which is, let's just say $5,000. So that puts you at $45,000. The lender is going to require that you have a few months of reserve. So that's probably another 10, 15. So you're up to like $60,000 that you need to have in cash. And then you would have to pay your buyer broker on top of that. It's going to rule out a lot of buyers that are already having trouble getting a property. So in the meantime, I had heard that Washington State has already been doing something similar for about 2 years. So I want to research, okay, how are they doing it? What's working out up there? And they are set up such that the buyer must have an agreement with their broker before they go to see properties. Their MLS is allowed to offer a commission to the buyer's broker. So it has worked out that the commissions, are not at the high of, about 6%. I guess they're now ranging up there in the 2 years this has happened between 5 and 6%, and things are working nicely and everything's transparent to the buyer. They see they have negotiated up front what they are prepared to pay for professional guidance, which they should have. I don't know that a buyer unrepresented would have much of a chance of having an offer accepted. Some listing agents don't mind, quote, double ending it, but then they want to get paid, so it still doesn't. And to me, it's very hard to represent two parties, the seller and the buyer. And when I work with the seller, I have information about what they will accept and won't accept and what's most important to them or not. And don't share all of that with the buyer because I'm trying to get the seller the best outcome that I possibly can, whether it's a combination of price or terms or what. And so I think it's then very hard. How do I advise the buyer what to ask for and what's reasonable or not, knowing what I know, and then now knowing what I know about them? It's just nearly impossible. The only time I've ever really felt comfortable representing both sides is either if the bank owned the property, because the bank has their own rules and they're going to do whatever they want to do, um, or, you know, potentially in like a probate or a trust sale where it's absolutely as is, take it or leave it, this is what you get. But even then, I'm not really a huge fan of it. But I think, unfortunately, this lawsuit and outcome is going to probably encourage that. And it'll be interesting to see in 6 months whether we think this was a good thing for consumers or not. And what I was really frustrated about was I saw an article about Washington State and 2 years after the fact how it's working. And the opinion from a quote consumer advocate was that their method of doing things up there is not successful for consumers because the commissions didn't fall. But it was my understanding their highest priority, the consumers and DOJ and all, were most concerned about transparency. Well, Washington State is perfectly transparent, so apparently their argument that it's about transparency was not 100% true. And I would like to remind people of a couple of things, which is, I guess you're going to start to see, and I have already seen a few brokers start to say, yes, I'll take a reduced price, but for that I'm going to do much less service. So if you want me to draft a contract for you and negotiate a price for you, I'm happy to do less. You know, that's a small function of what we do. Besides helping people find a property that suits their needs, figure out what it's really worth, what price it's going to take to get it, and whether it's worth it. And then once you enter the escrow, you know, you have all the inspections over not just the condition of the property, the condition of the title, all sorts of things, especially now with property insurance considerations. Believe it or not, in LA City, there are actually areas that are considered, quote, flood risks, which is sort of funny because we're in a desert and we would love to have water. But then you have to have flood insurance, and buyers don't always know that. So anyway, and then my second point was going to be that as far as I've been in the business, 15 years, there have always been discount brokers, and most of them don't last because they offer sellers a reduced discount, and then they get a large number of clients and they can't service them themselves and they can't afford to hire anybody. So they usually last about a year or two and then they're gone. And last but not least is the statistic that realtors that come into the business, 87% of them, 87% leave the business in the first year. So the fact that between the attorney in Missouri and the consumer advocates that think we don't need buyer brokers and they shouldn't be paid and that realtors are paid too much, I would argue with that. I think it's the fact that people don't really realize how much expertise it takes and what we do behind the scenes. It'll be interesting to see how the market shakes out over the next 6 months, how the process evolves and works out for both sellers and buyers. And additionally, I think there are some pundits out there that have been suggesting to people that they are going to save on commission and yet get the same selling price. And I don't believe that if you have fewer buyer brokers showing your house that you're going to get the same selling price. So I think there's a decent chance that over the next few months prices are going to fall a bit more, in part because when the rates drop and we go through these changes, I think more sellers will come out. I think some of the buyers are tired of waiting for interest rates to fall. And so I don't know they'll come back quite as quickly. So I have a feeling it'll be interesting to see 6 months from now what what the conclusion overall is, but I have a feeling prices are going to fall between now and the end of the year. Not drastically. I don't think the market's going to crash by any means, but I think they're going to drop. So if you would like to discuss the real estate market or anything in particular, I hope you'll reach out to me.